Are you a home seller who's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment to list? Well, I have some news for you that it's going to disappoint you. The seller's market as we knew it is officially over. And if you're still pricing and preparing your home like it's 2021, you're setting yourself up for failure. I'm Lily Vallario with eXp Realty, successfully selling real estate for over 21 years. And if you're new to my channel, I'm thrilled to have you here. Today, we're diving into why home sellers are losing deals at record rates and what this means for anyone thinking about selling their home. Here in Maryland, I'm seeing something I haven't witnessed in over a decade. Contract cancellation at its highest peak since they started tracking data in 2017. I'm also seeing this across the board and hearing the same thing from other agents. Around 15 to 16% of contracts are falling through, which means roughly 1 in every 6 deals never make it to closing. And trust me, it's not because of what most people think. Let's go back to what made this last few years so crazy for sellers. From 2020 through early 2023, we had the most extreme seller's market in modern history. Homes were selling in days, not weeks. Multiple offers were standard, not special. Buyers were waiving inspections, appraisal contingencies, and throwing cash over asking price just to compete. I watched people bid on houses they'd only seen in photos. Inspection periods went from 10 days to walk and talk pre-inspections to being completely waived. Appraisal gaps became the norm. Buyers were promising to cover the difference if the home didn't appraise for the contract price. But here's what created that environment. We had record low inventory, mortgage rates under 3%, and a generation of millennials hitting peak home buying age, all at the same time. Add in pandemic-driven lifestyle changes and government stimulus money, and you had the perfect storm that pushed home values up 30 to 40% in just 2 years. Sellers got used to this. They expected their homes to sell fast, for top dollar, and with minimal effort. Many of my seller clients during that time would ask me to price their home higher than my recommendation because they figured buyers would bid up anyway. And honestly, they were usually right. Then everything changed, and it happened fast. The Federal Reserve started raising interest rates aggressively in 2022 to combat inflation. Mortgage rates went from under 3% to over 7% in less than 18 months. That's not a gradual shift. That's a market earthquake. But here's what most people miss about this rate shock. It's not just that monthly payments got more expensive. It's that the entire buyer psychology shifted overnight. When rates were low, buyers could afford to pay premium prices because their monthly payment was still manageable. To put that into perspective, a $400,000 home at 2.8% interest rate was about the same monthly payment as a $260,000 home at today's 6.5% rate. So when rates doubled, buyers didn't just become more price sensitive, they became completely different shoppers. Instead of competing for the perfect house, they started looking for the best value. Instead of waiving contingencies to win, they started demanding concessions to justify the higher carrying costs. I've seen this shift firsthand with my buyers. 2 years ago, they were prepared to write offers over asking price before we even scheduled the showing. Now, they're asking us to research comparable sales, calculate price per square footage, and negotiate repair credits before they even consider making an offer. The urgency is gone, and the leverage has completely flipped. Now let's talk about what buyers are actually doing with their newfound leverage, because this is where sellers are getting blindsided. Buyers today are not just asking for contingencies, they're demanding them. And when sellers try to push back like they could in 2021, buyers are simply walking away. The inspection contingency is back in a big way. According to the latest data, 70% of canceled contracts are failing because of inspection or repair issues. That's not a coincidence. That's buyers using their leverage to negotiate or walk away when they find problems. But it goes deeper than just asking for repairs. Today's buyers are conducting much more thorough due diligence. They're hiring specialized inspectors for HVAC systems, bringing in roofers for separate roof inspections, and even getting quotes for major repairs before they agree to proceed with the transaction. They're treating home purchases like the major investments they actually are, instead of the emotional decisions they became during the seller's market. And honestly, who can blame them? This market is a lot tougher than what the media is showing. I'm living it every single day. Homes are sitting longer. Price cuts are stacking up. And the competition is heavier than it's been in years. And here's what almost nobody is talking about, and it's huge. We have a shadow inventory problem. These are homes that aren't listed yet, but their owners fully intend to sell. They're saying things like, I'm going to wait until spring, or once rates drop, then I'll list. And they're not pulling that out of thin air. The Fed's next meeting is October 28 and 29, and another one is coming mid-December. Fed officials have already hinted at 2 more rate cuts this year. So sellers think that that's their green light. And if they wait just a few more months, buyers will suddenly flood back in and prices will pop again. But that's not how this works, because what's building isn't just about rates. It's about inventory. Every seller waiting for that better time is really stacking up behind the starting line. The moment they all decide to list, that hidden supply hits at once. And when it does, it's going to crush the leverage sellers think they have. I'm already seeing it here in Maryland. Inventory is creeping up faster than I've ever seen. And this is before that shadow inventory has even hit the market. Once those homes do, it's going to feel like a flood. Prices could soften even more, not because of interest rates, but because the market will be overwhelmed with options. And the truth is, buyers aren't in any rush either. A lot of them are stuck, confused by mixed signals, unsure what to do next. They're not desperate. They're cautious. So when they see more homes sitting and more price drops, they wait even longer. That's the cycle we're in right now. A slow motion stalemate that's putting all the pressure right back on sellers. I'm also seeing buyers negotiate much more aggressively on price after inspections. Where they might have asked before in the past for $1,000 credit for minor issues, they're now asking for $5,000 to $10,000 for the same problems. And if sellers refuse, buyers are canceling the contract and moving on to the next house. The appraisal contingency also made a comeback. During the peak seller's market, buyers routinely waived appraisals or agreed to cover gaps, sometimes up to $50,000 or more. Now they're insisting on appraisal contingencies and walking away if a home doesn't appraise for the contract price. They've learned that overpaying in a declining market is financial suicide. Even financing contingencies are being used more strategically. Buyers are taking the full financing contingency period to shop for better rates. And if they can't get terms they're comfortable with, they're exercising their right to cancel. Lenders are also being more conservative with underwriting, which means more deals are falling through at the last minute when final underwriting reveals issues that weren't caught initially. Here's where things get really interesting and where a lot of sellers are getting a harsh reality check. Appraisals are coming in low at rates we haven't seen since the last recession, and buyers are no longer willing to cover the difference. During the seller's market, appraisals struggled to keep up with rapidly rising prices. Buyers got used to covering appraisal gaps because they expected continued appreciation to make up the difference. But now, with prices flat or declining in many areas, that strategy looks foolish in hindsight. I just had a listing where the buyer's offer was accepted at $425,000, but the appraisal came in at $415,000. 2 years ago, that buyer would have brought the extra $10,000 to closing without blinking. Instead, they demanded that the seller reduce the price to the appraised value. When my seller refused, despite my advice, the buyer canceled the contract. We went back on the market, found a new buyer 30 days later, and my seller netted $5,000 less than he would have if he had agreed to sell at the appraised value. This is happening because appraisers are now looking at more recent comparable sales, and those sales are showing flat or sometimes declining values. They're also being more conservative in their adjustments for upgrades and even location premiums. An appraiser who might have given a seller credit for quartz countertops in 2022 is now treating them as standard features in 2025. The timing of appraisals is also creating problems. Most appraisals happen 2 or 3 weeks into the contract period, after buyers have already invested in inspections and started the mortgage process. When the appraisal comes in low, it forces a renegotiation at the worst possible time, when both parties have already committed to significant time and money to the transaction. Smart sellers are starting to get their own pre-listing appraisals to avoid this problem, but many are still pricing based on what they think that their home is worth, rather than what the market will actually support. And that disconnect is killing deals at record rates. Now let's talk about the biggest problem I'm seeing with sellers right now, and it's completely psychological. Sellers are still anchored to peak prices from 2021 and 2022, and they cannot let go of those numbers. I get calls almost weekly from sellers who just fired their previous agent because their house didn't get enough showings or offers. Just last week, I had a seller who terminated their listing after 19 days because they weren't getting the foot traffic they expected. They wanted to hire me because they thought having a bilingual Spanish-speaking agent would generate more interest in their predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. Now, of course, I want every listing, and yes, I speak fluent Spanish, but I know that language barriers aren't the reason why their house didn't sell. The problem was price. Their house was updated 12 years ago, and what looked fresh and modern then, now can look dated. Those cabinets, those tiles, the whole aesthetic is considered outdated by today's buyers, and the price needs to reflect the reality. Another seller called me yesterday after 60 days on the market with 0 offers. When I researched their property, the same issue emerged. Overpriced for the condition, overpriced for the market, overpriced for buyer expectations. But when I explained this, they couldn't accept it. They kept referring back to what their neighbor sold for 8 months ago. This is price anchoring at its worst. Sellers emotionally attach to numbers that no longer exist in today's rapidly changing market. They're comparing their house to sales that happened in a completely different economic environment, with completely different buyer behavior and completely different competition levels. I'm being very selective about what listings I take on now because I invest significant marketing dollars, time, and effort into every property I list. If a seller doesn't believe what I'm telling them about pricing and market conditions, I'd rather pass on the listing. It's actually becoming every agent's dream to be the second realtor after sellers have had the reality check from today's market. So here's the bottom line. The real estate market has fundamentally shifted, and sellers who don't adapt are going to be left behind. This isn't a temporary blip or a seasonal slowdown. This is the new normal, and it's going to define home sales for the next couple of years. The numbers don't lie. Contract cancellation rates at 15%, pending sales falling even as mortgage rates drop, and 2025 already shaping up to be the worst home sale year on record since 1995. These aren't coincidences. They're symptoms of a market that's completely rebalanced in favor of buyers. If you're thinking about selling your home, you need to understand that you're competing in a buyer's market now. That means pricing right from day one, preparing for thorough inspections, and being ready to negotiate on repairs and concessions. The days of listing high and waiting for buyers to bid up your price are over. You also need to be realistic about condition and updates. What looked fresh and modern 10 years ago might look dated to today's buyers. The renovation trends that were popular in 2010 are now considered outdated, and your pricing needs to reflect that reality. Most importantly, you need to work with an agent who understands this new market and isn't afraid to tell you the truth about pricing and condition. Someone who will prepare you for what to expect and help you navigate the challenges that come with selling a house in a buyer's market. And if you're looking for a top agent in your area, whether you're ready to sell or just exploring your options, I can help. I have a Find an Agent form linked below in this video. Just fill it out and I will personally connect with you to learn more about your goals. From there, I'll introduce you to one of the top fully vetted agents in my network, someone I trust and have personally selected to help you navigate your local market. If you found this information helpful, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments below what you are seeing in your local market. Are you a seller or a realtor struggling with these challenges, or a buyer taking advantage of your new leverage? If you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, or relocating to Maryland, my contact information is in the description box below. And don't forget to subscribe for straightforward, no fluff, no hype real estate market insights you can actually use no matter what state you live in. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.